Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in trying to deflect for the Prime Minister, that member has been making a mockery out of question period. But no wonder, because this is a government that is under siege. The appointment of senators is the sole responsibility of the Prime Minister, and yet they can't seem to give a single credible response. So we'll try this. What is the criteria that the Prime Minister uses to ensure that the people he appoints to the Senate are actually eligible to sit there? Will the Parliamentary Secretary answer or explain to Canadians why he's so desperate to stonewall for his Prime Minister?
Very good. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, as I've said on a number of occasions, Mr. Speaker, the constitutional practice on this is very clear and has been so for close to 150 years, Mr. Speaker. Other issues, of course, are before the courts, so we're not going to make a comment on evidence that's before the courts. I don't want to do what the member opposite, the member for Timmins, James Bay, was accused of doing by the Boundary Reform Commission for his inappropriate involvement in that process, Mr. Speaker. That was inappropriate. It would be inappropriate for us to comment on evidence before the court. We won't do it. But as I said earlier, Mr. Speaker, it would be nice if they did the right thing and repay the $2.7 million that they owe taxpayers.
Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, the feeble excuses of my friend. If the constitutional requirements have been clear for 150 years, why is the Prime Minister afraid to stand in this House and explain them? This member not only interfered with the work of the question period, but now he's using his roles to block information coming out through parliamentary written questions. Canadians have a right to know why the Prime Minister ignored 150 years of constitutional requirements. This isn't an issue before the courts. Can the Parliamentary Secretary put aside the attempt to protect the Prime Minister and tell the truth about what went down in the Prime Minister's office?
Mr. Speaker, as I said, the constitutional practice on this is clear for almost 150 years. But when it comes to talking about the truth, Mr. Speaker, one of the sacred responsibilities we have as Member of Parliament is when we campaign, and we campaign on an issue, it's then to respect that when we come into this House, Mr. Speaker. This is a member, the member for Timmins, James Bay, who turned his back on his constituents, voted against them, and then tried to inappropriately involve himself in a Boundary Review Commission because he knew he was in trouble. He tried to get them out of his riding as opposed to respecting them and voting for them. I'll never do that, and I suspect nobody on this side of the House would ever break their faith to the way he has.
The Honourable Member